a mutual contact, a guy whose podcast I've been on. And I emailed Simon Parks, and I never got a reply. And I was kind of miffed by it. They didn't bother to send a one-sentence reply. But later on, through this person, I got confirmation that, yes, Simon had gotten my email, but it had literally been cut in half. Like, you're reading the text, and halfway, it was just like the rest of it was just gone.
Whoa.
And then he tried to reply to my Gmail, which is never, my Gmail box has never been more than like 10% full. It's never been turned off or anything. He tried to respond, and it bounced back to him. So in between me and him, someone was trying to keep us from communicating with each other. So that to me does
almost like tonight.
Yeah, that happens. You know, I had a show with Joe Montaldo, who I've talked about, you know, in past shows because he was the guy who had all these other police and military who were at that mall with me, and he's been on history. Yeah, actually, that's another development since we last talked. Joe Montaldo has been on Ancient Aliens on the History Channel several times because he had this alien abductee blood type study, where, you know, gray abductees tend to have certain blood types, and reptilian abductees and Nordic abductees all tend to have specific, like, different blood types. I don't know if you've seen that. I don't keep up.
I'm very interested. Yeah, I need to see that. Yeah, that's great that Joe Montaldo is kind of getting that kind of exposure. He is really outspoken on this subject. But I want to ask you, so about as far as this experience goes, do you feel like this is happening because of your previous experiences, that you're kind of like you're going up the ladders as far as your contact with them? That's why they're comfortable doing these kind of things with you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm getting older. I'm 41 now, so it's almost like, well, hey, they're telling me you do have these latent psychic abilities, and you do. You know, I come from like a Catholic background. I went to like a real devout Jesuit school and everything, so I've never messed around with Ouija boards or channeling. I'm still like that. I'm still pretty. You know, I don't want to do anything that's going to open me up to negative spirits or give permission to anything. But being psychic isn't really about that. You don't have to, like, you know, leave your body or open yourself up to other spirits. You can just use your own perception and abilities, which is a natural thing. And I never thought of myself as psychic, but, you know, since then, yeah, my psychic abilities have gone up a lot. Now, that happens a lot. You hear about gray abductees that, you know, their psychic abilities go through the roof, and Nordic abductees. So it's it's not particular to reptilian abductees, but with me, yeah, it's more of a thing like, oh, hey, you should look into this, because I do have in my family line, and they have shown me before, you know, it came through my mother's line, the reptilian, you know, line of abductions, and I have people in that line that are, you know, very psychic. I have like a great grandmother who was like really powerful, like well-known, like back in Poland, healer and everything else. And she was so powerful that, you know, the villagers, like, they tried to kill her by poisoning her. It was like a Rasputin.
Oh, wow, yeah. Because they're afraid of people when they have some kind of other outside power that they don't understand. They're afraid of it, and so they seek to condemn it.
Yeah, and that's, you know, it's still kind of a common thing. But going back to the albino, okay, they did show me in the past, and I don't know if I mentioned this on a previous show with you, but probably not. And that is that I have specifically red reptilian DNA, like from a red reptilian. And that's something, you know, that was kind of surprising, because I don't read a lot of red reptilian encounters. There's a few. There's one on Phantoms and Monsters, like like 6 months ago. This guy had a red reptilian, you know, appear in his bedroom, and he felt really connected. He didn't know why he felt connected to it. And it's a whole thing. But red reptilians, going back to Simon Parks, he was at this, you know, very early on, this albino, like, draconian, like, underground military parade, like not as big as like a parade you see up here, but more of a small scale type parade. And one of the things they did was honor the original ancestors of the albino line of the Royal Reptilians, and they were red. So the albino reptilians actually came from the red reptilians. That was their original color, because of course albinism appears in every species. It's not like you could breed you could take any animal, mammal or reptile, and pretty much breed albinism into them.
Oh yeah,
yeah, sure.
So do you think that they do that on purpose? Maybe was that something intentional, or did that just come out of just generations and generations. Was that something that just happened to emerge?
It might have come on its own, and they just sort of went with it. It might have just, I don't know. I don't know if it was pushed that way or it came on its own, but I do know they originally came from the Red Reptilians, which is something I'm from as well. And they did show me that there's not a lot of reptilians. There's not a lot of Red Reptilians out there, and there's not a lot of Red Abductees who have that DNA. It's kind of a rare strain. And, from what I can gather, the thing about the reptilians is they're such an old species. They spread out to so many planets and different ecosystems that, there are a lot of different breeds, but just like dog breeds, they're still essentially the same species. They might, you look at a Chihuahua and a Great Dane, you think like, is that really the same animal? And, it is. They can still interbreed. No problem. It's still the same. But that's why you have these different colors and variations. And it is kind of a kaleidoscope with them. So do the Red Reptilians, do they have is that like, are they more like psychically attuned? I know I've heard you mention having almost, sometimes I've heard you mention that you've be able to have premonitions, almost useless ones. My favorite is when you said that you knew the Reuben sandwich was coming from Subway 3 days before it came out. And that happens all the time. Like these really like premonitions of things that aren't even important. Like, watch out for that brown paper bag you're going to trip over in like 2 days. Okay, well, it's very minor things, but I do have a strong emotional psychic sense now. Like I can feel my moods 2-3 days ahead of time very consistently. And I didn't know what the hell that was. I didn't know, because you see like psychics on TV or movies and they just see the future. A portal opens up and there's the future. It's like, but there's a type of psychic premonition where you feel emotion. It's called presentiment. I didn't know what it was. I had to look it up. You're feeling emotions, and some people have, and apparently I have that now. And it can be useful, but other times, it's not. It doesn't send like hard data back to you. That's why people always say, "Well, how come psychics aren't winning the lottery?" Well, because that's more of like a left brain, very precise numerical thing, and the part of your brain that best picks up the future is the more right brain, kind of esoteric, not non-solid. It doesn't give you numbers. It doesn't give you exact
right. It's not like it's not a constant thing that's constantly telling you every single thing that's going to happen every second of every day. It's just every now and then when something that's important enough to your line or your bloodline or yourself that maybe you'll get to not trip over that paper brown bag. But sometimes it's just even just letting you know, like, hey, don't take that bus. Little things like that.
Or it could be more you like kind of letting you know that this, what you are seeing is actually happening, and it may be unimportant things like a Reuben sandwich or something, but that kind of tells you that, well, there might be a message later that might have much greater importance, and to trust it, right?
Yeah, small affirmation.
And I do try to trust my intuition a lot more, because before I wasn't even really paying attention to it that much, and I do now realize, because when it's accurate, so many times you're finally like, oh, that's not my dog. I don't know.
No, it's okay. It's a reptile dog. He's okay.
Sorry, that's my dog.
Oh, Star Fox.
Oh, Star Fox. So actually, I wanted to ask you something on that, because you had sent me a Twitter message around the time that you were on Joe's program, and there was that DDoS attack that brought down his server. And after that, you woke up at like 6:30 in the morning, and you heard hissing coming from your phone. And you couldn't tell what kind of, like, what the hissing was trying to tell you, but you said that it was trying to warn you of something, but you weren't quite sure what it was trying to warn you of. Do you recall this?
That has happened. That's happened many times.
Oh, okay.
With the vocalizations, with the weird, when I've had conversations with other people, not off of radio shows, but it's a good thing you brought the DDoS attack up, because Joe has had that happen to him so many times, because he talked to so many abductees who have had military involvement or been, in my labs, or where you have, aliens, but you also have the military sort of working together with abductees. And he gets attacked and knocked out so many times, this radio show, that he got like a super secure, like military grade, super expensive router that could track where the attacks are coming from, real expensive one. And that attack came from, he tracked it to Norfolk, Virginia, which has all these, Norfolk Naval
military area.
Yeah, which makes sense, because I always thought whenever I get knocked off a show or a program, is it alien or is it military? Who's knocking me off? Well, if the aliens were knocking me off, the reptilians would, in one of these abductions, say, hey, shut up and just stop talking about this stuff. And they've never once said that to me. I've never once gotten a message, don't talk about this. I haven't got encouragement to talk about it, but they've never once said not to. But as far as the warning, yeah, I had another experience, about the same time where, and this is going to sound real, it all sounds odd, so I might as well say it. I woke up with these calluses on my left finger and my right finger. They were like mirror images of each other. It's like the whole outside of my index finger on my left hand and my right hand. And when you get psoriasis or skin things, it shouldn't be on two sides of the body perfectly.
Not mirrored, yeah.
No,
and that's happened. It happened in my wrists like a year before that. I woke up and both, like, the corners of the outside of my wrists were like scaled and calloused up, and I'm like, what the hell? And I just sort of like just let it go. Like, okay, well, I know I've got more reptilian DNA than the average person, a lot of reptilian abductees, and certain elite celebrity types too as well.
Yeah.
Right.
But when you wake up, you're like, okay, I'm going to take a picture of this. And I do. And I'm trying to take these HD pictures of it. I was going to send it into, I post updates on Phantoms and Monsters all the time. I start hearing hissing from my phone. And I'm like, okay, that couldn't be right. That must have been a nearby car letting out air from a time. There's no way I just heard hissing from my phone. I try and take a picture of the other finger. I hear the hissing again. And I'm like, okay, so I guess they're live looking at my camera and warning me not to take pictures of this. So I just won't send the pictures then. I did. I wrote, but here's what's funny. I write an article about this. I send it, I sent it to the Phantoms Monsters blog, and the article itself gets deleted. The publisher of that blog, who is Lon Strickler, he was able to copy and post it, but I went back into my version of it on my attachment, my email. I just wanted to look at something I wrote, and it had been corrupted. And Google's, when you have a Word attachment sitting in your email, it's on Google's server. Nothing should get corrupted in there. It's not like some old 3.5 floppy disk.
Yeah.
That shouldn't happen. So I'm like, let me ask Lon, hey, your copy, is your copy okay? And he checks his copy inside of his totally separate copy in his email box, not connected to mine, and it had been completely corrupted. Now, fortunately, he had copied it and posted it to the blog before it did, but somebody went into both of our email boxes separately and corrupted two attachments, to send some kind of message. I shouldn't have even.
And they were both corrupted in the exact same way?
That would take a forensic. I don't know if they were corrupted in the same way. Like, I didn't go into I don't know advanced coding, but I do know statistically for that to happen is just ridiculous.
That is.
That never happens.
Do you happen to have those photos still?
I do have the photos, but since they warned me not to publish them, I just decided, I'll fine. I won't publish them.
Yeah.
And
on the subject of body changes and scales, I've heard you mention you've had other things happen to your body, like your tongue becoming enlarged. Is that right, Matt?
Yeah. Wider. Yeah, it did get a little wider, and that's happened. There's a book called The Ultimate Alien Agenda, which you can still find on Amazon. I don't think it has a digital version. It's from like 15.
Who's that by?
Last name's Walden, I believe. He's a reptilian abductee, and there's so many elements in his self-written book. Pretty educated guy too. If you look at his resume, he had I think he taught at a university, had a business degree, and his reptilian abductions didn't really pick up till like his early 40s. And he wrote all about him, and he worked with I believe he worked with Carla Turner, that one researcher. But that's something that happened to him as well. The tongue alteration, like his tongue got larger, all sorts of other things.